week's episode was a quick wins episode. Every so often, we try to do an episode that is just loads of small actions to give you some momentum or to get you started with career development. So what I thought we'd do this morning, if you can all make sure that you can see your chat, which I don't need to tell most of you because most of you are very on it when it comes to chat. I thought we'd go through the 10 quick wins, and for each one, I'm going to ask you to contribute something to chat, so that basically, if you've already listened to the podcast, you get more than you got from the podcast from sort of crowdsourcing together. And we're going to put loads of links in the chat. So the chat is going to be sort of, make sure you can see that and see the screen at the same time. And then towards the end of today, we've got something kind of newsy to share. And we are going to stop recording to share it because it's sort of not out there yet in the wider world. So that's exciting, isn't it? It's about as exciting as career development gets. It's like, oh, we're actually going to stop the recording. I'm saying that out loud and looking at Lucy in the hopeful wish of like, please don't let me forget to stop recording. So she's nodding. It is exciting, Helen. So let's see. Right. So 10 quick wins. So the first one was tool to try out. Have a go. In the world where you cannot get through a day without people talking about AI or tools, or CEOs leaving and then coming back, it can all feel a bit overwhelming. The best thing I think you can do is low pressure playing when it comes to trying these tools out. So this is my really rubbish. This is a version I thought I'd put on screen for you, all of you. This is a Miro board, which is an early version of a project where it's literally like loads of post-it notes. You can have a play with it. It is really easy to get started. Another one that someone shared with me that I'd not seen before. Has anyone tried Coggle? Coggle is sort of really good for mind mapping. So somebody sent me a mind map of a conversation that they wanted to have with me. So it was sort of lots of boxes like this, and then it flows out like that, and then it sort of flows like this. So it'll say like, oh, squiggly careers, then it might talk about progression, and it might have questions in there that you can ask around progression. So it was sort of like, here's a conversation flow. So Coggle was a new one to me. Again, really easy to use, really easy to get started. What did Helen use this week? Oh, Google Bard. Has anyone tried that one? I think she couldn't get ChatGPT to work, so she tried the Bard one. She sent it to me, and it was a summary of something we had both been in, and it was very accurate. I was like, yeah, perfect. I am trying Firefly's AI, where for meetings, you invite them to your meeting. I say them, the computer. You invite the Firefly, Fred thing. I think they've given him a name. It's Fred. To your meeting. And not only do you get a transcript, but you get a summary. And I am someone who is not a very good note taker. Now, I think if you're going to do this, you can choose which meetings you do it for. And also you have to tell people you're doing it. I had someone sort of do it to me, but without telling me what was happening. And I was like, what's this Fireflies thing that's in the meeting? So I think you've got to tell people. What are the tools? Let's head into chat. What other tools could people try out? So I've given you 3 there. Miro board, a Coggle, Fireflies. What else have people been trying? Oh, I've not used Microsoft to do. Notion. Do you know what, Sarah? I was talking about Notion yesterday. We're thinking about doing a Notion for something. Lucid. Oh, interesting. I've not, similar to Miro. 7 taps for creating learning. I think I've heard of that, but we've never used it before. Padlet. Oh, not heard of that. Freeform. Yeah, Jose Mural and Miro, like you say, very, very similar, I think. Just takes a while to get going. That's interesting, Sarah. Some of the tools I think you quite quickly get the value from. Other ones I think you have to persevere a bit more. Notion is, I described it, Zoe, yesterday to somebody as, for people who remember microsites, like a much better version of a microsite. It's sort of a way of collating information together that is very easy to click through. It's very visual. You can look at some tech companies have put their employee handbooks onto Notion, and everyone can access them. Yeah, so Sarah's saying that people use it for their internal team. That's what I'm looking at it for. I'm looking at it for our Squiggle and Stay program. Do we create a Notion around Squiggle and Stay? And I'm looking at it internally for our Amazing If, like how we do things around here. You can keep them internal or external, but you can go and look at other people's. They're really good to go and look at. Rocketbook, Katie. Oh, really good one. A raisable notebook, and it's changed your life. What an advocate. You can organize your notes, lots of good tutorials. Airtable, yeah, we use Airtable. Sarah, I'm just getting to grips with Airtable. Helen and I have done a squiggly swap with some of our roles and responsibilities in Amazing If at the moment. So I'm learning Airtable as part of that. Zoe really likes boards on Teams. Yeah, I've not used that either. There's so much hidden functionality. And I know, again, to this point, you can be a bit like, where do I start? I always just think the most important thing is to start, to just try something, to kind of have a play, sign up. If it doesn't stick, it doesn't matter. We use paper, Katie. So what you can see on screen now is paper. So that's the tools. Next one, thoughtful thank you. Let me know in chat, how could you do a thoughtful thank you? What would that look like for you? Oh yeah, Rocketbook. I've never even heard of that one. So that's a completely new one to me. My partner's got a remarkable notepad. They are quite good. If you're going to do a thoughtful thank you, how are you most likely to do that, just for you personally? Email somebody, with a thank you, CC their boss. So nice. Alex, I love the addition there of CC their boss. You're like, that is actually a really nice thing to do. Handwritten card. Yeah, I do love handwritten card. Postcards are nice. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, send someone a book. There's some obvious options for you. People who like career development. Praise on Teams. Yeah, Helen, we do squiggly shout outs. Obviously everything has to be sort of squiggly based. So, just squiggly shout out that everybody in the company gets to read. So nice shout outs. Microsoft Praise. They've created a tool for praise. Okay, I'm gonna have to have a look at that one. Not heard of that before. Thank you. I knew this would work well with this group. Postcards, Friday polls, Friday shout outs. Simply thanks. That's nice, Kerry. We had that at Sainsbury's, where there's actually a reward system. So you can give people thank yous, gift vouchers, that sort of things. Thank you Thursdays, brilliant. On calls. And it honestly, you never underestimate or assume that people know that you are thankful. Pretty much every time I do this, people are like, oh, okay. They didn't give themselves credit for it. They've moved past it really fast. Even if someone does know, it's still really nice to be told. You've got a gratitude portal, Global Appreciation Week. Yeah. What's Katie? I feel like has all of the hacks here. Remarkables are, I think they're really expensive, but you can get a paper feel screen protector. That's what I have, Katie. I have that on my iPad for when I'm writing with papers. So they're like sort of like a bit of cellophane's probably not quite doing them justice, but you stick it to the top of your iPad, and it does make you feel more like you're writing. Sam, I do get that, how it's all got a bit kind of overwhelming. Maybe just pick one thing. Department champion, how nice, Caroline, you get a lie-in, a long lunch, or an early finish, or all three. Do I have to pick, or could I have all three? Amazing. And I only get one. What would you pick? I wouldn't pick the lie-in, even though I'm not an early starter. I'd pick an early finish. I'd be like, I'll finish early, go and do something different. I do use an Apple Pen. Karine, good question. Okay, thoughtful thank yous. Great, let's move on. Next one. Watch your TED Talk, but not only watch your TED Talk, you'll have heard in the podcast, we sort of did a bit of a build on just watching a TED Talk to make it a bit more active. I think watching a TED Talk is great. It's passive, but it's sort of relatively passive learning unless you do something with it. I'm a big fan of watching a TED Talk in a team. So if you are in the office a bit more, team TED Talks with a cup of tea, great, or tea and biscuits, whatever it might be. We used to do TED and tea. But actually just watching one and maybe writing down afterwards 3 things that you thought, or 3 reflections, the act of kind of watching. So you watch something first and then you're writing something down. So it's forcing your brain to take your processing a bit further. Like, what did I think? What stood out for me? What will I remember? Let's all head into chat and sorry, I can't quite tell your first name. Let's do the recommendation for TED Talks. What TED Talk should we all be watching? Helen and I have both just watched the new one, not new, actually, April, one from Duolingo. And it's called something like, it's the CEO and founder of Duolingo. It's like how to make learning last as if it's social media. It's a better title than that. It's a good watch though. It's a really good watch. Like even if you've not used Duolingo, and he's funny. Yeah, Katie, it is a really good watch. He's really relaxed. There you go. Lucy's found it for me. How to make learning as addictive as social media. Given you're all here, you must care about learning. It's quite an interesting one. Angela Ducker's one on Grit is great. I like Anti-CEO. That's the guy who founded, it's like a yogurt company, Greek yogurt company that got massive. He's really interesting. Yeah, there's a reason that I think Simon Sinek's either the most or second most watched TED Talk of all time. Ken Robinson, Joe, like minds, great minds, let's say, not just like minds, great. I still really like Ken Robinson's. Funny and interesting and insightful. Any others? Sometimes it's quite good to watch a TED Talk that is completely out of your area. Sort of, I always sort of end up slightly going towards, like skills or learning. But sometimes I'll just think, oh, I don't know anything about this thing, usually to do with science. I don't know very much about science. Gliz, that's interesting. The spaghetti marshmallow challenge one. We'll come back to that. I've been watching that recently for the thing that we're going to talk about at the end. Chris Lovett about busyness. I've not watched that one, Helen. That sounds like an interesting one. Great. The journey through loss and grief. A man talking about grief, really interesting. Thanks, Sarah. Great. I'll have a look at that. Chris Anderson. Yeah, Chris Anderson is I think I've got this right, the original founder of TED. So, he's probably helped loads of people do public speaking. It's sort of his kind of main thing. Great. Number 4, what have we got? Curious career conversations. If you are a regular listener, you will have heard us talk about this quite a few times. The way I approach curious career conversations is they always sound like quite an easy action, but in reality, it's very easy to deprioritize them. So I do get quite specific with career conversations. I set myself a goal of 1 curious career conversation every month. I try now to make sure that every other month, at least like one's in person, and I can do that with the way that I work. So I try to alternate 1 in person, 1 virtual. The virtual thing is great because obviously I can speak to anyone anywhere in the world, but I think I create a different kind of connection if I am sitting across from somebody having a coffee. And I had 2 curious career conversations. I think it was last Friday or the Friday before. So I did 2 in a day because it was in person. So I was like, that's quite efficient. And the thing that made those curious career conversations more useful, even though your intention is just to explore. So I was like, I haven't got like an agenda, or I'm not going, here's my script to follow. I did have, what are my top 3 questions? And in the back of my mind, I am thinking, how can they help? And I'm guessing, so one of the people I'd not met before, I was thinking, I'm not quite sure how they can help me, but based on a little bit of research and knowing a bit about them, here is sort of my sort of top 3 questions, and I just scribble them down, but then they're sort of front of mind for me. And I think those conversations were so much more useful for me as a result. I got to some really useful ideas and opportunities. We talk about pulling opportunities and possibilities towards you from both of those conversations. And they really kind of left my brain buzzing, which I think is a great thing. What have we got? A question. How do you approach someone for a curious career conversation? Well, probably depends if you're a me or if you're a bit more of a Helen. So it depends maybe a bit more whether you're a bit more introverted or a bit more extroverted. So you can just sort of ask people, some people would go on LinkedIn and would, write a message to someone. So in quite a sort of cold approach to a curious career conversation, I would never do that. I sort of don't have it kind of in me, and I think it just doesn't feel like me. I tend to have in mind first, what do I want to learn? And then I ask, who can help me? So I answered that question first. What do I want to learn? Who can help me? And then it just really helps me with finding focus and thinking, even if I don't know the people who can help me initially, I can start asking. I can start asking for recommendations. Do you know anyone who could help me ... Or just in my head, I start to connect the dots. So I was thinking, who could help me think about a practical experiment for how we could combine AI and career development in 2024? So I was like, who could help me do that? Kind of a big question that Helen and I are thinking about. And as soon as I started to think that, I was like, oh yeah, I should reconnect with an old boss. He's always up for a drink on a Friday. So I was like, perfect. And just sort of asked him, and he was like, yeah, that's fine. Lovely. I like that 3-sentence structure there. I can say, why am I contacting them? How will this be useful for me? And what do I want to find out? And like you say, 20 minutes, Lucy's saying 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I don't think they have to be very long. And I just think you can, as long as you've got sort of a specific ask, you can sort of do this quite quickly. Also, don't forget, you can do this internally. You can have a curious career conversation with someone you don't work with that often. There are even people in Amazing If I don't work with as much as others. So if I had a curious career conversation with, let's say, Danielle in our team, who runs our finance and operations, she does all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. Like, I mean, she seems to run her village and the PTA at the same time. And I never quite know how it happens, but she does. A curious career conversation with Danielle would always be worth your while. I think it'd always be really interesting and surprising. So you can do that. You can keep it really small. You can start off easy. Give yourself permission to start off easy. Number 5, asking for some strengths-based feedback. Head into chat. What might that sound like? What question would we ask for some strengths-based feedback? Strengths-based feedback. Really quick, informal, fast, strengths-based feedback. What questions are we asking? When do you see me at my best? Great. What do you think I do really well? Where have I had the most impact? We are all so good at this. If only everyone was a sort of PodPluser. Yeah, in our Squiggly Career Calendar, we have got ideas for questions on this. What 3 words would you use to describe me at my best? When do you see me have the most positive impact? I like a when question. I think we can ask more when questions. You get specific answers when you ask when questions. How am I useful in our team? Love that one, Caroline. What does a good day look like working with me? That's really nice. Really like that one. I like the one strategy. Really good, Sam. Yeah. What's the one thing that stands out about working with me? And never be afraid to just ask for strengths feedback. You don't need to balance it. I think sometimes we feel a need to balance it, but we don't need to balance it. Number 6, do somebody a fast favor. So this is the 5-minute favor thing. What could you do in 5 minutes for somebody that would be really helpful? Sometimes I think this might be about giving yourself credit for the 5-minute favors you already do, but just spot them. Just be like, someone's asked for the help with this. I could just do I'm just going to do this. It's a 5-minute favor for someone else. It could be a tech hack. It could be a recommendation for something you're reading, watching, listening to. Could be an email you've been meaning to send for ages. Anything where you just think, I could just be helpful in a really fast way. Who and how could I do a fast favor? Connecting people, Sarah, great example. I've got 3 of those, I think, to do this week after an event. And I was just like, do you know what? I can actually probably do that pretty fast. LinkedIn recommendation, lovely one, Sarah. I love LinkedIn recommendations. I'm always saying to people, it's a really good, it makes you stand out. Not many people have good LinkedIn recommendations. Quick feedback, great. Jamie, be a sounding board, yeah. Podcast recommendations, great. Brilliant. Loads of fast favors. Next, if you've not already done it, have a go at our learning agility assessment. This will take you, I reckon, probably about 10 minutes, if that. Learning agility, the ability to do something that you've not done before. So sort of it's learning from experiences so that you can succeed in first-time situations. So learning agility has an interesting nuance of it's not sort of learning in the flow of work, and it's not just learning as we go. It's certainly not incremental learning. I think it's a tough task, learning agility, because you're essentially going, you have never done this before. And how can you learn based on all your experiences so far and apply that learning into something completely new, completely different? We've written a HBR article on this, which has come out just at the end of last week. So we'll put the link in chat to that. Worth spending some time breaking down learning agility. Really thinking about what does that mean for you? Which are the bits you're good at? Navigating newness, understanding other people, self-awareness. Like, think about the specific skills that help you to already be good at learning agility and what would help you to be even better. And I think we are all going to be in more and more sort of new situations. You probably already are all the time. Sort of you think, well, I don't know how to do this, and I don't know if I can do this. So how can we get sort of smarter and have that learning agility? Also, it's one of those phrases that I think people will start saying more and more in organizations. The World Economic Forum talk about it a lot, which often means that companies start going, oh, okay, that's what we need in our leaders. That's what we need in our people. You can then drill down and go, right, I'm really clear what that looks like. I think we've had over 600 people do that assessment now, which is great because that was a bit of an experiment for us. Next one, probably my favourite. Add 1 bit of active rest into your week. Active rest, using your brain, being 100% present, really in something that is not work. So what do you do where you sort of forget everything else and you're just so in the moment because you love gaming, because I don't know, you love running or you find it hard and you can't think about anything else. Maybe it's something like Duolingo. Yeah, good example. Maybe it's learning to dance. Great, Jamie. Could be gardening, maybe less so this time of year. Could be cooking, calligraphy, lovely one. Playing the piano. Yeah, music works really well. As long as you're in it. Sam, you play pickleball. I saw some people playing that. I was playing paddle and there was pickleball courts next door and I was like, looks fascinating. Trying to train your bulldog puppy. Yeah. Playing tennis. So really in it, just add one more bit of active rest. One bit of active rest every day is incredibly good for your resilience. That can be a bit ambitious, but even just one more bit of active rest will make your week better. And it's just remembering you'll be better at your day job the more active rest you have. You know, sometimes it feels the opposite. You're like, I've got more things to do on my to-do list. I couldn't possibly have more active rest in my day. But you're like, but remember, you'll be better because of it. So I love a bit of active rest. If you want to dive into this, this is Alex Pang. So go back to the Alex Pang podcast episode. Next one, each one, teach one. In a squiggly career, everyone's a learner, everyone's a teacher. Let me know in chat, what's one thing that you could teach other people about? Each one, teach one. What have you got to give? What could we all learn from you? Maybe we should give over PodPlus 1 week and just let everybody else teach each other. What could you share? Creative writing, Kimberly, lovely one. What else have we got? What are you all going to teach everyone? Maybe I've scared everyone going, oh, we can make you do it in PodPlus. We won't make you do it in PodPlus. Presenting on stage for the first time. Brilliant. Knitting, Zoe. How lovely. LinkedIn learning, leadership. Brilliant, Joe. Simple working lunches, sharing tips for developing confidence. Great. With job searching for neurodivergent adults. Brilliant. Sam, love how specific that is as well. Best advice ever received. Project management, leadership skills. You know, that point, give us, gain more. You know, when we give without keeping score, I always think be really, because you'll have loads to give, be specific. What have you got to give? Who are you going to give it to? And then our last one was very small successes. Maybe between now and Christmas, because there's so much going on for most people, maybe end every day just writing down 3 very small successes you've had that day. If you write 3, they get really small. And that's pretty good for your brain. It helps you to spot all of those small successes of when things go really well. Let me know one very small success you've had so far this week. Let's just think about a little bit. This week, one very small success at work or at home. Remember, your very small successes can come from any part of your life. Making it to today, you didn't quit something. Yeah. Chaired a tricky meeting. Well done, Gabby. Amazing. That you prepared well for. I love it. Did a difficult, weird kind of headstand that really makes me laugh. So writing some guidance, something. So is this your first PodPlus, Helen? Amazing. Thank you for joining. I hope you're finding it useful. Went for a jog, facilitated a leadership workshop really well. Doesn't surprise me, Joe, but it delights me. Finish your risk register. Amazing, Sarah. Writing an email. 2 visits to the gym. Brilliant.